Good morning guys and welcome to Paint with Sal. Today we're painting a tree. So I already mixed some burnt umber and some ultramarine blue together to get a near black mix. Okay, so we'll just start around here. If you have a reference photo, you can kind of copy the branches that are on there, or you can just make it up in your mind. But it'll probably look more realistic if you copy what's in the photo. These branches probably don't have to be perfect because leaves are going to take over. Branches are not the easiest thing to make with acrylics. You really have to have a nice flow coming out of there, which is not that easy with acrylics. The right brush and the right delicate stroke, all of which are pretty difficult to master. Which is why it's good that we're putting some leaves on here to cover up the mistakes. Okay, that's probably good. That is good enough for now. So let's go to the leaves. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with little clumps of midtones. So let's make a green. Using some blue, some yellow, and some teal. Maybe a little white in there. Yeah. And a little more blue. I want it a little darker. This tree is very airy, so there's a lot of air showing through. So you can do clumps. With some of these types of trees, you can just do a total clump of color, and then you can add the air in later. But when it's really airy and you can see through the tree, see through most of it, you don't really want to do that. So we're going to do clumps, but only in a couple areas where it's a little more dense and there's not as much light showing through. So we're not going to do the whole tree. But let's put some green here where the clumps are very dense. I can just tap it on in these dense areas. And when you do this, if there is a little air peeking through, a little sky, then you can just dab it on and leave some of that behind. You don't have to make the clump totally a full clump without any of the painting underneath it coming out. So we'll leave little spaces here. Okay, so that is about it for the block in. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a whole different kind of approach to this with a different brush. So we're gonna take this hog hair texture brush, very textury, and we're gonna take that same green. Let's make a similar green, and we're just gonna dab some leaves on there. Alright, let's see what this does. There. So with that, you're leaving a lot of the air exposed here. And for these more airy trees like this is a really good approach. Just dab it on everywhere, unless you see a lot of white space or a lot of sky showing through somewhere, then you can leave that for now. But there seem to be little tiny leaves pretty much everywhere in this one. Alright, that's pretty good. Now, let's take our mix of umber and blue, which is basically a black. We're going to use the same approach with this hog hair brush. We're going to dab it in, and let's make some texture in those leaves. This is basically going. So yeah, when you dab that on, you get a bunch of what almost looks like texture. You get the shadows where there's less light coming through. And if there's a really dark spot, then you can put a lot there. Put more in the darker, shadowy areas, and less in the lighter areas. Makes sense, right? Okay, see how the edges are kind of furry, kind of blurry on there? We're going to want to take care of that. So the edges are where you can put more of your realism, more of your texture. So I'm going to take this long rigger brush. And we're going to take some green. Which we're going to make with a white, some yellow. Man, I keep running out of my yellow. Let's mix some more of that in. Spray everything down so it doesn't get too dry. And take some of this green and let's just get the edges here. So we're going to manually add some leaves on the edges. This way, this whole thing is going to look more realistic. It won't just have a bunch of blobs on the sides. It'll actually look like some leaves popping off here. So take a long rigger brush like this, flatten it out, and there you have some leaves. Make sure to change the angle of the brush every once in a while, or you'll have all these kind of flat leaves all going in the same direction. You don't want that. just keep doing it all the way around. So you want to at least hit all the edges that you already made. But you can also go out a little bit every once in a while. You know, here some extra leaves and a big stick went out a bit further, like that. You want to make sure it isn't all uniform or it won't look totally real. So every once in a while, hey, it's coming out further. Big ol' clump of leaves right here where it grew out more. Okay, pretty good. Now we need to add some highlights, or maybe the next mid-tone, but a little bit brighter. So let's mix some yellow into this green. If you mix it to one side of the green that you already have, you can see how much difference there is there. So you can know if it's enough of a difference from what you had before. So like here you can tell that's how much lighter it is than it was, than the other layer under it is going to be. So that's probably enough of a change, not too drastic. So let's take this fan brush and you're going to take the paint just on the edge to get your leaves. You don't want the whole line here. So let's just put some paint on here. Let's just take the corner of it and let's see what we can do. Now just find little clumps in the tree. Usually there are kind of little clumps where there's more light hitting, where the branches are sticking out just a little bit more than the others in certain areas. Okay, now let's mix one more layer of highlights, so we're gonna go slightly lighter even than this. So let's take some white. Here, look at the palette. Take some white, we're gonna mix it into a corner of this. Again, when you mix it into a corner of it, you can see how much lighter it is than what you just had. And that can be helpful to know that there is enough of a difference. Alright, so now we just have a whitish yellow. And let's just add minimal highlights. You don't want to do this everywhere. It might be too much. So let's just look for some areas and pile it on there. You know what, looking at this now, I think I need to go a little lighter. I'm going to take what we already mixed and put it into some white, but it's going to be really white. Okay, now it's time to reinforce some of the trunk here. So we're going to take our umber ultramarine blue mixture here. Let's put that into the trunk and the branches. Some of them have kind of fallen away under all of this furriness, so we have to bring them back. You know what? I had the wrong brush for that. I need the long rigger brush. And that's gonna make the skinniest lines. Thin lines in there, yes. Let's take a mixture of this kind of white and umber for the tree trunk. Maybe a little bit of yellow, some red, give it a little bit of flavor. And let's add some texture here. Keep just adding more and more texture, build it up in layers. So let's do something a little lighter, a little more drastic. Almost like a birch tree. You can see a lot of lighter pieces of bark on here. And then depending on the day, you're gonna see little bits of light on branches wherever the leaves aren't covering it. So in this reference photo, because it seems to be an overcast day, you don't really have much of that. But I like the effect of it, so still like to add that every once in a while. Especially if I'm just doing the tree without the background, you can kind of just make it up. Because you don't see a sun in this, do you? So, a little bit of sun coming through, and see on some of these branches here. I still want to add a few little highlights, so I'm going to get this rigger brush and manually add a white with some yellow on there on some of these leaves. Okay, the last step here is usually to add back some of that sky. Because this is just a tree on a white background, we're just going to take white, like the white of the canvas, and add a bit of that so that some sky shows through. This is how you do it. It's not as effective with a white background because you can't really know if it's highlights of leaves or if it's the background shining through. But still, I wanted to show you guys this part. Just make little pockets of light. And of course, usually at the ends, there's even more. So, little dots and then some bigger pockets. And just clean up parts that were too much. Alright guys, that's about it. That is how you paint a tree. There are many techniques depending on the tree that you're doing, but on a tree like this, this is what I like to do. So there was your quick tutorial. Thank you for watching.